Sing with.
No, Your Honor.
All right, jury.
Thank you. And can, all right.
All right, raise your hand. You swear firm testimony you give the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Have a seat. State your spelling first and last name for the court. Now to the mic, please.
Karen Sullivan, KarenSullivan.
Say good afternoon, Dr. Sullivan.
Good afternoon.
Could you tell the jurors how you are currently employed?
I'm the Chief Medical Examiner for the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office here in Atlanta.
And can you tell the jurors how long have you worked within the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office?
Part-time beginning in July of 2003 till October 2007, and then full-time since October 2007.
And you said you are the Chief Medical Examiner. Can you explain to the jurors how long you've been the Chief?
Since spring of 2021.
And can you tell the jurors a little bit about what the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office does?
We determine cause and manner of death of people who die of sudden, unexpected, or unexplained causes, people who die as a result of injury, either self-inflicted or inflicted by another person.
And as a part of that, can you tell the jurors what is an autopsy?
An autopsy is both an external and an internal examination of a person's body to determine the presence of natural disease processes or injuries to determine the cause and manner of death.
And what you just described, can you tell the jurors in relation to that, what is forensic pathology?
Well, forensic pathology is specifically using autopsies or external examinations to determine a person's cause and manner of death under those circumstances I mentioned a moment ago.
And can you explain to the jurors a little bit about your educational background and your training that's allowed you to work within the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office and as the Chief Medical Examiner?
I got my undergraduate degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a master's degree in anatomy from the University of Georgia. And after getting my master's degree, I was a high school teacher here in Fulton County for about 5.5 years before going to medical school at Morehouse School of Medicine here in Atlanta. And then after going to Morehouse and graduating, then I did a residency in pathology at Emory University, and then an additional year of forensic pathology fellowship training at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office in conjunction with Emory.
And in the time that you just described and throughout your career, can you explain to the jurors approximately how many autopsies have you performed in relation to your career?
I've either performed myself or supervised pathology residents and fellows, approximately 4,000 autopsies.
And can you tell the jurors how long again have you been, have you had the title of Chief Medical Examiner?
Chief Medical Examiner since spring of 2021.
And this time, Your Honor, the state is going to tender Dr. Karen Sullivan as an expert in forensic pathology.
All right, she's so qualified and may testify as such.
Now, Dr. Sullivan, you explained a little while ago about what an autopsy is and how it's the external and internal examination of a deceased person. Can you tell the jurors when you are doing an autopsy, is it part of your standard practice and procedure to photograph the autopsy that you're performing?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell the jurors why that's so important and why you do it?
Well, we have either a dedicated medical legal photographer or one of the forensic pathology technicians who are also cross-trained in photography to photograph the steps of the autopsy so that another person, another doctor who examines the photographs and the report can make their own opinion as to a person's cause and manner of death.
And in relation to or in conjunction with that, as you're performing an autopsy on someone, are you also, I guess, memorializing your findings and conclusions in a report?
Yes, a report is prepared after, a preliminary report is prepared after the autopsy is complete. And then once the pathologist is ready to finalize the report, they'll review the photographs and other studies associated with the autopsy in order to electronically finalize the case.
And specifically as it relates to the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, how you described the photographs and the memorializing of your findings and conclusions in a report. Can you tell the jurors after an autopsy has been completed, do you as well, along with your fellow medical examiners who work at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, kind of do a roundtable or review of the photographs like you described, as well as specifically hear your findings that everyone kind of signs off on?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors why you do that and why that's so important as it relates to the procedures that you do as it relates to your position at the Fulton County ME's office?
Well, for forensic pathology in general, it's always best practice to get a consensus agreement on the injuries that are being seen or the findings in other studies such as toxicology results. And so in our office, each morning as part of our morning report, the previous day's cases are reviewed, both the information surrounding the incident details and the autopsy photographs and how the case will be signed out. In addition, for any cases in our office where the manner of death is homicide or undetermined, another doctor or doctors will peer review the case before it's electronically finalized.
Now, you just mentioned cause and manner of death. Can you explain to the jurors what is the term cause of death mean?
Cause of death just means what happened to the person that caused them to die. So for example, if someone had pneumonia, their cause of death would be pneumonia. If they had a heart attack, their cause of death would be a myocardial infarction or heart attack. If they shot themselves in the head, their cause of death would be a gunshot wound of the head.
And in conjunction with that, can you tell the jurors what is the term manner of death mean?
Well, manner of death means how did the cause of death come about? And so in Georgia, the manners of death that the medical examiners have to choose from are natural, meaning that the person's cause of death is due to some natural disease process. For example, a person with pneumonia or the person that had a heart attack. Another manner of death will be accident. For example, injuries incurred during a car accident, or an elderly person that falls and breaks their hip, or someone who dies of a drug overdose. Those manners the manner of death in those cases would be accident. The manner of death would be suicide if someone intentionally did an act that caused their own death. It would be homicide if someone else intentionally caused the death of another person. And then there are some cases where we cannot decide between manners of death. There are competing manners of death. So you might wonder, is this an accident versus a suicide? Is this a suicide versus a homicide? You don't have enough information, or the condition of the body precludes making a definitive determination. Then the manner of death in those cases will be undetermined.
Now, I want to direct your attention to February 24th of 2019. Did you have the occasion to perform an autopsy on 15-year-old Jamari Holmes?
I'm sorry, what was the date that you said again?
February 24th of 2019.
Yes, I did.
And during that autopsy of Jamari Holmes, can you tell the jurors, were photographs taken during the autopsy procedures?
Yes,
And at the conclusion of the autopsy, did you memorialize your findings and conclusions in a report like you've described here today?
yes, I did.
Okay. And I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibits 25 NN through 29 NN. And in looking at State's Exhibits, we'll start with State's Exhibit 25 NN through 28 NN. Can you tell the jurors, do you recognize those exhibits?
I do.
And can you tell the jurors how you recognize them and what they are?
They're copies of photographs that were taken during Mr. Holmes's autopsy. Some of the photographs have a small ruler in them that has Mr. Holmes's autopsy or Fulton County Medical Examiner's case number on it.
And in State's Exhibit 29 NN, can you tell the jurors, do you recognize that exhibit?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
It's a copy of Mr. Holmes's autopsy report that I completed.
Okay. And in the photographs you've described in State's Exhibits 25 NN through 28 NN, do they fairly and accurately depict the photos that were taken during the autopsy of Jamari Holmes on February 24th of 2019?
They do.
And is State's Exhibit 29 NN a fair and accurate copy of the report that you authored in relation to the autopsy performed on Mr. Holmes back on February 24th of 2019?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would tender what's been marked as State's Exhibits 25 NN through 29 NN.
Those are admitted.
Now, Dr. Sullivan, you just mentioned a unique case number or a case number that was associated with this case in relation to the death of 15-year-old Mr. Holmes. Can you tell the jurors how that case number is specifically assigned, not only to this case, but all the cases that you perform autopsies on?
Well, in our office, we have a number of medical legal death investigators who take death calls either from hospitals where someone has died or from police officers at a scene of death. And when the investigator takes the case, then they assign sequentially a case number to it. For example, the first case of this year, 2024, would have been 2024-0001. Then the next case that was reported was 2. Then the next case it would have been 3. So Mr. Holmes's case number was 2019-0370. So his death was number 370 reported in the year 2019.
Now, in relation to the work you do when performing an autopsy, can you tell the jurors what soot is and how it is important or related to your performing an autopsy and the conclusions that you make?
Well, when a gun is fired, the gunpowder burns, and the gas that's produced is what propels the bullet down the muzzle of the gun and out of the barrel. The burnt gunpowder can produce a fine ash like you see in the fireplace after you burn wood in the wintertime. That ash can deposit on the skin. That ash would be called soot. You can see soot on a person's body, assuming there's nothing between the muzzle of the gun and the person who is being shot, up to about 12 inches. After about 12 inches, then that soot doesn't have enough energy to reach the person's body and deposit on it. Also exiting the muzzle of the gun are burning and unburnt gunpowder particles that can strike the skin and make small scrapes in the skin called stippling. Stippling is seen on the body from a distance of a few inches to up to about 3 feet for most handguns, after which those gunpowder particles don't have enough energy to reach the person's body and they fall away. So after about 3 feet distance from the muzzle of the gun to the person who is shot, you'll see neither soot nor stippling on a person's body, assuming there's no intervening object between the muzzle of the gun and the person who is shot.
And on the screen before you, it states Exhibit 25. And can you tell the jurors, I guess, the purpose of this photo that you take at the initial outset of an autopsy?
This is one of the standard sets of photos. It's called a facial identification photograph that simply shows the decedent's face.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors kind of what are the first steps that you take in performing an autopsy here on Mr. Holmes, but in general when doing an autopsy and the procedures that go along with it?
Well, after the decedent's body bag is open, then the doctor is looking at the person for any evidence of natural disease processes and any injuries and documenting that. At the same time, the forensic technician is writing down any clothing or personal effects that were received with the person, and the photographer is taking photographs of the person as they are received with clothing or medical intervention and then without, and then also any external evidence of natural disease processes and injuries. And after the photographs are obtained, then at the direction of the doctor, the internal examination occurs where the forensic technician eviscerates the body, meaning the internal organs are removed, and the doctor is examining them both, again, for natural disease processes and injuries.
Now, can you tell the jurors in doing the initial steps that you just described as it relates to the autopsy of Jamari Holmes, can you tell the jurors that what we're looking at in State Exhibit 6 and in to the initial injuries that you observed to Mr. Holmes?
And so this is the back of Mr. Holmes's head. His head is lying on a head block. His face would be towards the top of the picture, the back of his head towards the bottom of the picture where the small ruler is. And there's a gunshot wound of the head that's partially seen in this photograph.
And if we move to State Exhibit 27, and can you tell the jurors, is this the same gunshot wound that you just described, but with the hair shaped around it?
It is.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, as you were doing your autopsy, were you able to, I guess, determine the trajectory or the pathway of travel as it relates to the projectile that entered Mr. Holmes's back of his head?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors how you're able to do that and what, I guess, the trajectory of the path of travel showed in this case?
Well, in this case, the path of the projectile was back to front with minimal deviation or variance in other directions. And I used, by looking at the entrance wound, Entrance wounds tend to have an abrasion or a scrape of the skin because the bullet is scraping the skin as it enters the body, and that allows you to tell that it's an entrance wound. In this case, you're looking at Mr. Holmes's head from the side. It's as though he's laying on his left-hand side with his right ear up. So the tag is actually the back of his head. And just above that, that scraped area is the abrasion. And so the bullet is traveling from the tag area, which is the back of the head, towards the left-hand side of the photo, which is the top of the head.
Okay. And you kind of discussed earlier what soot and stippling is. Can you tell the jurors, did you see either soot or stippling as it relates to the gunshot wound in the back of the head of Jamari Holmes?
No, neither soot nor stippling was on the scan.
And based on your training and experience and what you described here today, can you tell the jurors what that, I guess, means or how that impacts your findings and conclusions as it relates to how close the barrel of a gun was to the back of Mr. Holmes's head?
Well, assuming that there's no intervening object between the muzzle of the gun and Mr. Holmes's head, the muzzle of the gun was at least 3 feet away from Mr. Holmes's head.
Now, I guess, can you describe to the jurors, based on, I guess, the autopsy, both the external and internal examination that you described, what areas of the brain were injured and, I guess, hit by the bullet or the projectiles that traveled through Mr. Holmes's brain?
Well, there were injuries to the left side of the skull and the left cerebral hemisphere, which is the larger part of the brain on the left-hand side.
And can you tell the jurors the left cerebral hemisphere, I guess, what motor functions or what functions does that area of the brain control in the human body?
Well, it has partial control over the right side of the body, but in addition to the structures that are directly impacted by the bullet going through Mr. Holmes's head, the concussive force of the gunshot wound damages areas of the brain even away from the direct wound path. So the parts of the brain, for example, in the brainstem that control cardiac and respiratory functions, those are also be affected.
And we've talked about an entry wound here and how you're able to determine the difference between an entry and exit wound. Can you tell the jurors in your examination, were you able to find or locate an exit wound?
No.
Okay. And based upon that, you described to the jurors that there's an internal examination where organs are removed from here, Mr. Holmes's body, correct?
Correct.
And in this instance, was Mr. Holmes's physical brain removed from his head?
It was.
And is an examination done, I guess, in regards to looking for any projectiles that remain within Mr. Holmes's brain?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, were you able to locate any projectiles in Mr. Holmes's brain, and where about within his head did you find them?
Well, there was a fragmented projectile. There were at least 2 large pieces of the bullet that were recovered, and that's seen in this picture, and they were recovered from the wound track.
Okay. And you said they were recovered from the wound track. Once you recover them and you photograph them, can you tell the jurors what the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office does with here this projectile removed from Mr. Holmes's brain?
Well, after it's photographed, it's sealed in an evidence box, which is put in a locked box in our office until it can be transported to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation for ballistic analysis.
Now, after you have completed the autopsy and all the procedures you've described here today, as it relates to this case involving Jamari Holmes, can you tell the jurors, were you able to determine the cause of death for Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
And what was the cause of death for Mr. Holmes in this case?
Gunshot wound of the head.
Okay. And you discussed earlier the difference between cause and manner of death. Can you tell the jurors, based on your procedures and autopsy that you performed, what you were able to determine or conclude the manner of death was as it relates to Jamari Holmes?
Homicide.
And lastly, Dr. Sullivan, you talked about the photographing that is done by the techs who are working alongside of you. Today, we've seen 4 photographs, or more than 4 photographs taken of the entire procedure as it relates to the autopsies that you performed, but specifically the autopsy performed on Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Okay. And do the 4 pictures that were shown to the jury kind of capture, encapsulate the wounds that Mr. Holmes suffered, as well as the projectile that was removed from his brain?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I don't have anything further to say.
All right, any cross for this witness?
Briefly, Your Honor. Doctor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What day did you perform this autopsy?
On Sunday, February 24th, 2019.
And you have testified at hearings regarding this case previously, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and the defendants in this case in the death of Jamari Holmes were Rodelius Ryan and Damone Blaylock, correct?
I do not know.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
No questions, John.
Any redirect? All right, thank you for your time. Call your next witness. No, we discussed that.
Your Honor, the state's calling Detective Stillwell, and this is one of the witnesses we have discussed.
Not be shown.
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you give the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Have a seat. State and spell your first and last name for the court. Stop it to it, man, please.
My name is Detective Joseph Storno. It's Storno.
Good afternoon, Detective Stillwell. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Can you tell the jury where you employed
I'm currently employed by the Atlanta Police Department.
and what unit are you with APD?
I'm currently assigned to the Gangs and Special Investigations Unit
How long have you worked in APD's gang unit?
since January of 2020.
And when did you first come on with APD?
I was hired in August of 2006
And what was did you start out on patrol?
after graduating the police academy. Yes.
what zone of the city were you a patrol officer in?
I was assigned to Zone 3.
And did you ever cover different beats within Zone 3?
Yes.
Did you ever cover the Cleveland Avenue beat of Zone 3?
Yes.
And while in Zone 3, what different positions did you hold within APD?
Well, initially I was on Zone 3 patrol, where I was answering 911 calls. And then a short time later, I was transferred to the Zone 3 crime suppression unit.
And after the crime suppression unit, were you ever a detective in that zone?
Yes, I was promoted to detective in 2000, I believe it was 2012, and I was assigned to Zone 3 CID.
Did you ever work any specialized units as a detective before gangs?
Before, yes, I was after being in Zone 3 CID, I was transferred to the Special Victims Child Exploitation Unit.
And how many years were you a detective in that unit?
I was in child exploitation for approximately 7 to 8 years.
Now, in your current capacity, what in general do you do?
So I'm currently tasked with investigating gangs and gang members, investigating crimes of which they commit. I'm also tasked with identifying new gangs and new gang members, as well as staying up to date on rivalries and tasks like that.
Now, have you been with APD for 18 years?
Yes,
Are you currently post-certified?
I am.
And have you been post-certified throughout your career with APD?
Yes.
Now, I want to turn your attention to May 9th of 2022. Were you in the gang unit as a detective at that date?
I was.
Now, on May 9th, 2022, can you tell the jury what happened that day while you were on shift?
Well, on that day, a Fulton County indictment, a 56-count indictment came out against 27 co-conspirators in violation of the Georgia RICO Act.
Was there a search warrant that was also executed that day?
Yes.
Now, who drafted that search warrant?
The initial search warrant was drafted by investigator Viv Rito, who at the time was employed by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office.
Now, can you describe for the jury, how did you get involved? Or let me ask you this, did you participate in that search warrant?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the jury how you got involved with that search warrant? How did that day start?
Well, the gang unit, as well as additional units of the Atlanta Police Department, including the SWAT unit, the air unit, and at the time it was called the Titan unit, assisted the Fulton County District Attorney's Office in executing the search warrant at 355 Allison Drive.
Now, who is this Titans unit that you mentioned?
So the Titans unit, which is now called the Apex unit, Atlanta Proactive Enforcement and Extradition Unit, is a specialized unit that assists in high-risk search warrants. They often assist SWAT.
At this point, I'm going to object relevance, how he got involved.
Detective Storno, did you specifically participate in this search warrant?
I did.
Now, on this day, who had the residence at 355 Allison Drive?
That was the primary residence of Mr. Jeffrey Williams.
And is that in Atlanta, Georgia?
It is.
Is that in Fulton County?
Yes.
So what time did you get to 355 Allison Drive? Roughly.
Roughly around 6 p.m.
Now, when you got there, were these other units already there, or were you the first to arrive?
We staged nearby, and then my unit, the members of the gang unit, we were on the outskirts waiting for the search warrant to be executed by SWAT and the Titan unit.
Now, from when the SWAT or Titan unit began executing that search warrant to when you entered the residence, roughly how long amount of time was that?
Approximately 30 to 40 minutes.
And after they, those units did their job, did you ever go and search that location?
Yes.
Now, when you walked in, have you had time that this stack of photographs that you dropped off, were you able to review these before testifying here today?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, at this time, the state's going to approach with what's been marked as 1 through 65 X-ray. And Your Honor, I have a defense counsel has this, but I wanted to give Madam Court Reporter and the court a copy.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Detective Storno, with 1 through 65, what are those items?
These are photographs that were taken by our unit during the execution of the search warrant, photographs of evidence that was located and seized.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of the crime scene of that search warrant that you executed on May 9th, 2022?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 1 through 65 X-ray.
No objection from Mr. Kendrick.
All right, those are admitted without objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, I'm going to publish what's been marked as 1 X-ray. Can you orient the jury? You had referenced y'all were at a staging area before executing the search warrant. Behind, if I was the cameraman and I was going to turn around, what's behind me?
The residence.
And if you were to turn around and walk down that driveway, how long does it take you to get to the street?
It's a good ways off the street, maybe 30 yards from the
And
street.
about 30 yards.
Yes.
Before you and other members, did other members of the APD gang unit assist in this search?
Yes.
Before you all assisted in this search, was anyone initially detained on site?
Yes.
Who was?
So Mr. Jeffrey Williams was detained. Mr. Martinez Arnold was detained. Mr. Deamonte Kendrick was detained. And then there were other individuals inside as well, including a cleaning crew and Mr. Williams' 15-year-old son was present.
So were they all, so when you entered the residence, was anyone other than law enforcement inside?
When I entered the residence, no, it was just law enforcement.
And I'm going to publish 1 X-ray, or sorry, 2 X-ray. Is this the front of the residence?
That is the front of the residence.
And when you entered that location, did you go in through the front door?
I did.
And is that the front stairs depicted on this photograph?
Yes, those are the front stairs leading up to the front door of the residence.
I'm going to publish 3 X-ray. And if I were to walk up those stairs, is this the view that you would see?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 4 X-ray. Can you describe for the jury what this area of the home is?
So this is the main level after you walk in with the living room and then a open kitchen to the left.
Now, do you see that white island in the middle to the left near the kitchen?
Yes.
And do you see that kind of half wall to the left of that painting?
Yes.
What is on the other side of that wall?
There's a coat closet.
And actually, I'm going to ask you, I got an old school wooden pointer, Detective Storno. You could help orient the jury. Please, sir. Where's that storage closet you were just discussing?
So it's behind this wall. There's a door opening into a closet.
And would the front door be to our left, looking at this photograph?
Yeah, the front door to the entrance to the residence would be
And is there any type of doors or windows to the right on the other side of this couch?
Yes, so to the right, there's a door, like a screen door that leads to the backyard of the residence.
I'm going to publish 5 X-ray. Now, Detective Storner, do you see that blue door on the right side of this exhibit?
Yes, right here is the door to the closet.
And do you see that box seated on the middle of that island?
Yes,
Can you orient for the jury where that is?
this box right here that says cat.
And I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 6 X-ray now. Is that the box you were just discussing?
That is the same box, yes.
I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 7 X-ray. Is that a piece of clothing that was found in the house?
Yes, that was a hoodie that was located on the counter as well.
Now, I am going to republish 5 X-ray, and I wanted to ask you a question, Detective Storno. With the search warrant, the initial search warrant, what was the items you all were trying to search?
So the initial search warrant drafted by Investigator Viverito was, the scope of the search warrant was for gang paraphernalia and cellular devices.
And did you ever work on getting any additional search warrants that day?
Yes, once numerous firearms were located in the residence along with illegal narcotics, I was tasked with applying for an additional search warrant for 355 Allison with the scope of the search warrant to include firearms, narcotics, currency, ammunition, and believe that was the scope of my search warrant.
Now, Detective Storno, looking back at this photograph, was there any money counter on that island?
Yes, there was a gold money counter that was located on the counter in front of the sink.
I'm going to publish 7 X-ray, and 8 X-ray. My apologies. Is that the money counter you were just discussing?
Yes, that is the money counter that we located.
Now, I'm going to publish 9. What is depicted in this photograph?
That's a container of a substance we believe to be marijuana.
And is that the same kitchen aisle we were just discussing?
Yes, that was also located on the counter.
Now, I'm going to publish 10 X-ray. What is this item?
It's a satchel.
Did you all look in that satchel?
Yes.
I'm going to publish 11 X-ray. What all was inside of it?
Inside was a Ziploc baggie containing suspected marijuana, as well as a wad of U.S. currency, some keys, cell phone, and a Cartier glasses case.
I'm going to publish 12 X-ray. Where is this in relation to the kitchen area we were just discussing?
This was located in a cabinet below the counter.
And
Next to the sink.
what are those bottles to the left?
Those were open bottles of promethazine codeine cough syrup.
I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 13 X-ray. What is that on the counter right there to the far left?
That was a firearm that was located on the counter.
Now, I'm going to republish 5 X-ray. And is this the far end, if you're the cameraman, of this kitchen aisle?
Yes, it's down here in the corner.
I'm going to go back and publish 14 X-ray. Is this the firearm we were just discussing?
Yes.
What type of firearm was this?
That was an FN-57 firearm.
And did it have any magazine or ammunition with this firearm?
Yes, it was loaded with a magazine containing ammunition.
I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 15 X-ray. What was the serial number on this firearm?
Serial number was 386-380-329.
Now, Textura, I'm going to approach you with what's been marked as 15 X-ray alpha. Excuse me, it's 14 X-ray alpha. Now, Detective Storno, can you please and Detective Storno, keeping that item in the box, is there a serial number on that item?
There is.
And I'm going to give you some gloves if you want to use them. What is the serial number on that item?
The serial number is 386-380-329.
Is that the same serial number of the firearm we were just discussing found on the kitchen counter?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 14 X-ray alpha.
All right, that's admitted.
Now, I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 16 X-ray. You know where we were just discussing this firearm?
Yes.
If you were to do a complete 180, where would this cabinet be in relation to the firearm we were just discussing?
Directly behind it, on top of the refrigerator in a cabinet.
I'm going to publish 17 X-ray. What do we have here?
In this photo is a large bag containing suspected marijuana, as well as 2 firearms that were located next to the bag of marijuana.
I'm going to publish 18 X-ray. Is this a closer photograph of the suspected marijuana?
It is.
Now, as we go through these, ultimately with these items we discussed, did APD gang detective members or other law enforcement personnel collect these items that were found at the home?
Yes, the APD gang unit, as well as members of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, collected the items.
Now, I'm approaching you, Detective Storno, with what's been marked as 18 X-ray alpha. And let me ask you, when APD collects evidence, is it associated with a case number?
Yes.
And for this case, what is the APD case number associated with this case?
The APD case number associated with this incident is 221291090.
And do you see that APD case number on that item of evidence before you?
Yes, it's on the property sticker that was created for this item.
And I'm going to ask you, Detective Storno, if you can, or using that, can you open up and look in that bag?
Sure.
And I have some item that will help you.
Yeah, you want me to give you a knife or something?
Sorry.
Scissors will help.
Yep, I got some scissors. Should make it a little easier. Okay. And with the APD case, does that appear to be the bag of marijuana?
Yes, it contains.
Don't take it out until it's kind of.
It contains, yes, the suspected marijuana we recovered from the residence.
And with the items collected after they were collected from the home, did law enforcement personnel ultimately transport them back to APD?
Yes, we did.
And when all the items were collected and gathered, did you generate a report for the items recovered at the home?
Yes.
And were those items ultimately from a member of the team transported to any other law enforcement agencies?
They were eventually transported from APD property to the GBI.
Does the labeling associated with that bag and having examined it appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the suspected marijuana collected on this residence on May 9th, 2022?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 18 X-ray alpha.
All right, submitted.
Thank you, Detective Sorno. I'll, for now, I'll make a little space for you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now, I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 19 X-ray. And is this the firearm we had just discussed in the kitchen cabinet?
Yes, this was a firearm, one of the two firearms that was located next to that large bag of marijuana.
What kind of firearm is this?
This is a Glock firearm.
And did it have a magazine or any ammunition?
Yes, it was loaded with a magazine containing ammunition.
Is that the magazine with the ammo sticking out at the top?
It is.
I am going to approach you with, or I'm going to publish 20 X-ray first. What's the serial number on this firearm?
The serial number is BTDY617.
I'm approaching the witness with what's been marked as 19 X-ray alpha. Detective Storno, without taking that item out of the box, can you look and see if you see a serial number on it?
Yes, I do.
What is the serial number on that item in the box?
The serial number is BTDY617.
Does that appear to be the firearm we were just discussing collected from the home on May 9th, 2022?
Yes, this is the firearm that we located.
Your Honor, the state moves to tender into evidence 19 X-ray alpha.
Submitted.
Publishing 21 X-ray. Is this the second firearm that was in that kitchen cabinet?
Yes.
And what type of firearm is this?
This is a Smith & Wesson semi-automatic firearm.
And did it have a magazine and ammunition?
It did.
I am going to approach you with what's been marked as State's Exhibit 21 X-ray alpha. And if you can, Detective Storno, without taking it out of the box, just look at that item and see if you see a serial number.
I see the serial number.
And I'm going to publish 22 X-ray first. What is the serial number depicted on the screen?
The serial number on the screen is NCC 8806.
And what is the serial number on the firearm before you?
Serial number on the firearm in front of me is NCC 8800. I'm sorry. Yes, 8800.
Is that 00 on the screen? Could that be a 0 at the end?
Yes, that's a 0.
Does that appear to be the firearm collected that day?
It does.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 21 X-ray alpha.
Submitted.
Now, Detective Storno. I am republishing 5 X-ray. And the far left open gray cabinets. Do you see that in this photograph?
Yes.
And can you point that out for the jury? Is that the cabinet we were just discussing with the suspected marijuana and the 2 firearms?
Yes.
I want to turn your attention to the closet across from that.
Okay.
Were there any items identified in that closet?
Yes, we recovered several items from that closet.
I'm going to publish what's been marked as 23 X-ray. What is depicted here?
That is a Glock gun box.
And does that have a serial number on that gun box?
Yes, it does.
What is that serial number?
The serial number is BVNU633.
I'm going to publish what's been marked as 24 X-ray. What do we have here?
That was a Glock magazine that we located containing ammunition
In that closet?
that was recovered from that closet.
I'm handing you what's been marked as 24 X-ray alpha. Do you see a case number with this item, Detective Storno?
Yes.
Is that appear to be the same APD case number associated with this case?
It's the same case number.
And if you could, Detective Storno, just open it up to where you can look inside of it, but don't take it out.
Okay.
And with the APD case number and evidence markings and looking at the item, what is that?
There's a Glock magazine along with ammunition inside this emelet.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of a Glock magazine with ammunition collected on the May 9th, 2022 search warrant?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state moves to tender into evidence 24 X-ray alpha.
Admitted.
Now, Detective Storno, I'm going to publish 25 X-ray. Did you find any other boxes in that storage closet on the first floor?
We've recovered a gun box, an empty gun box, as depicted in this photo.
And if I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, what type of
And would this be something, when you were doing an itemized evidence report, that you would list piece by piece into that report?
Piece by piece, it depends. With so much jewelry, that might be categorized all together with just jewelry.
If you just categorize it together as just jewelry, what are the procedures in place to make sure that all of this jewelry is properly tracked and doesn't walk off at some point?
Well, you would place it in an evidence bag, create a property tag for it, and secure the evidence and turn it into property.
Okay. Do you know if that was done in this case?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So if there was any particular piece of jewelry that had significant value and it was amongst here, you would have put that in a property bag and it would still be in the possession of evidence. Is that correct?
Any property that was seized would be in a property bag and submitted to evidence.
And if it disappeared from the home and didn't appear in the property bag with evidence, where would that property be?
If it disappeared from the home
Yes.
and not in property,
Yes.
I couldn't say where the property would be.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything, Mr. Short?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Investigator, good afternoon. My name is Max Shard. I represent Shannon Stillwell, okay?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. May 9th, 2022 is the date of this execution of the search warrant, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You started to say that you knew, you thought there were other people living there, and then you gave an opinion about Mr. Kendrick's living there. Who, to your understanding, who was living at that residence, if you know?
I don't know who was living there, just the occupants that were there during the time that we served the search warrant, other than obviously Mr. Williams resided there.
Okay. Okay, so you don't know of any other individuals, you're just basing on who was there at the time?
I don't know who was living there on a permanent basis other than Mr. Williams.
Okay, fair enough. All right. How many guns were taken from Mr. Williams' residence on May 9th, 2022?
I believe it was 6 firearms that were located.
6 firearms, some ammunition, some magazines,
Correct.
clips.
Yes.
All right. I want to ask you, out of the 6 firearms that were collected from this residence on May 9th, 2022, to your knowledge, did any of those firearms ballistically match any of the shell casings from January 10th, 2015 outside the barbershop in Mechanicsville?
I have not reviewed the ballistics reports on those firearms.
Okay, so you do not have any information of any of these firearms matching the January 10th, 2015 shooting of Donovan Thomas?
I do not.
Okay. How about these 6 firearms that you collected on May 9th, 2022? Do you have any information that even suggests that these firearms, any of these firearms, match any shell casings or any ballistics from the March 14th, 2022 shooting of Shamel Drinks?
No, as I said, I have not reviewed the ballistics results from those firearms being test fired.
Okay. Now, when you executed this search warrant, May 9th, 2022, my client, Shannon Stillwell, was not present.
No, he was not.
Okay. Do you know how long Mr. Williams had owned this residence?
I do not know the approximate time he owned it.
Okay. Fingerprints in that residence. Are you aware of any fingerprints belonging to Mr. Stillwell that were ever located in that residence?
I am not aware of any.
How about DNA? Any of Mr. Stillwell's DNA?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you have any evidence at all that Mr. Shannon Stillwell has ever, even once, been present, visited, ever gone to that residence on Allison Drive?
I do not have any evidence that he's been to that residence.
No evidence at all.
I do not have any, no.
Thank you.
That's it. All right, yeah, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Detective Storno, was it around 6 p.m. when you began staging or getting close to entering the home on May 9th, 2022?
It was around 6 p.m. when the search warrant was executed.
And before 6 p.m. on May 9th, 2022, were you ever inside of that home at 355 Allison Drive?
I had never been inside that home, no.
So when asked questions about who was present or what transpired in that home, until you stepped foot in it, had you ever been in there before?
No.
And when the Titan unit and the SWAT unit clears a residence, is it, let me ask you this, is there any noises before they enter the home? Is there any way for anyone inside of the home to know that someone is coming?
Well, to my knowledge, SWAT did announce their presence.
And was there any air units or audible helicopters or anything like that involved?
Yes, our air unit did assist in the execution of the search warrant.
And does the APD SWAT unit who participated in that search, do they utilize drones as well?
Yes.
When you said it was roughly on cross-examination, you were asked questions about, do you have any evidence if defendant Kendrick was within arm's reach or had any drugs or firearm on him? Do you recall that?
Yes.
How long was it from when SWAT first announced their presence to the people in the home before that house was able to be searched?
At least around 30 minutes.
And when you had mentioned where it was defendant Kendrick arrested inside the home or outside the home?
I do not recall whether he was arrested inside the home or outside. I know he was attempting to flee and was apprehended by uniform officers executing the search of the that were entering the residence.
And how many you remember the kitchen cabinet we had discussed with the suspected marijuana and the tan and black firearm?
Yes,
How many grams of marijuana were recovered in the residence?
a total of I believe it was 1,299 grams of marijuana.
And in the time frame from when SWAT announced their presence to when APD gang unit personnel were collecting items, was there enough time to place items in the home?
Yes, there was ample opportunity to hide items in the home between the time that SWAT actually was able to clear the residence.
And with that secret compartment in the pantry, do you remember that?
Yes.
Did you need a passcode or anything to open it?
No.
Is it easy to open up that pantry door?
Yeah, it's easy to open up if you know where it is.
I also wanted to ask you that, well, Your Honor, may I briefly approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, while we were speaking, the items we were discussing have arrived. So thank you, Your Honor. So Detective Storno, I'm going to approach you with what's been marked as 70 X-ray. Detective Storno, do you have an APD case number associated with, is the APD case number for this case on that piece of evidence?
Yes,
And can you do me a favor and open that up and look inside of it?
sure.
Thank you.
You want me to go ahead and open up the.
If you could, Detective Storno, thank you.
Okay.
And what are the items that are contained inside of this?
It's a whole bunch of jewelry, watches, some chains recovered from the residence. Watch, rings.
The state at this time, does it appear, the state at this time moves to tender into evidence 70 X-ray. No, Your Honor, I'm going to keep it in one 70 X-ray box. No further questions. Thank you, Detective Storno.
Detective, that's all the jewelry that was seized right there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you look through that and tell me if there is a Richard Mill or Mille, Mille, RM055 Bubba Watson white ceramic watch? It's pretty distinctive as it's white ceramic, so that might help your search.
Okay. I mean, I see a Richie Miller, but only it's a pink one. I don't see a white one.
I want you to confirm that there is no white one in there, just so you're certain.
Yeah, there's not a white one in here.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need. I have no more questions.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Excuse, Judge. Thank you.
Y'all might need a minute to kind of clean some of that away before our next witness. we just have one.
All right for the jury. Smoke.
And also this, here.
Okay. Hang on just a second.
You raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. State and spell first and last name for the courts.
First name Usainu, Ousseynou. Last name Samba, Samba.
Good afternoon, Officer Samba.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'm sorry, Sergeant Samba. And can you just do me a favor and speak to the microphone very
Sure.
Thank you. Sergeant Samba, where are you employed?
With the City of Atlanta Police Department,
And how long have you been employed with APD?
9 years.
Can you kind of orient the jury with their career path during your time with APD?
Yes, sir. I came out 2016, was assigned to Zone 5 FOD, where you answer 911 calls. I was on the watch patrolling for 8 months. After 8 months, I was assigned to the crime suppression unit, focused more on the Midtown area. I was there for about a year. Then I was transferred to the field investigation team for about another year. Then from there, I went to the Apex unit for 2.5 years. Got promoted to investigator, went to the aggravated assault unit for 5 months. Then I was promoted to a sergeant and now assigned to Zone 1 FOD.
And what is your position with Zone 1?
I'm a supervisor on day watch.
Sergeant, are you post-certified?
Yes, sir.
And have you maintained this post-certification throughout your career?
Yes, sir, I have.
I want to turn your attention to May 2022. What unit were you assigned to?
I was assigned to the Apex unit.
And what does APEX stand for?
Apex is a violent crime unit that stands for Atlanta Proactive Enforcement and Interdictions.
Now, does the APEX unit work closely with the SWAT unit?
Yes, they do.
And what are some of, strike that. When the APEX unit is working with the SWAT unit, what is the role of the APEX unit?
Usually we are assigned to maintain the perimeter of the location where the SWAT is entering or searching.
Now, with respect to a execution of a search warrant, does the SWAT unit and APEX unit meet to devise a tactical plan of execution?
Yes, prior to going to the location, we always meet up and we everybody get their assignment so they can understand what's their role once they get to the location.
And when APEX does meet with the SWAT, do they meet in a close location?
It depends. Sometimes it can be at the headquarters. Sometimes it can be somewhere near the location where they're gonna do the search warrant or the arrest warrant.
And when you leave when APEX leaves the staging area to go to the Tiger location, does APEX and SWAT, do they move together?
Yes, sometimes we move together. Sometimes we get there first and we assume the perimeter. Then we let the SWAT team take over and go inside.
I want to turn your attention to May 9th, 2022. Did you, as an APEX officer, did you assist with the execution of the search warrant at 355 Allison Drive?
Yes, I did.
And as an APEX officer, what were your responsibilities that?
My responsibility was to assume the perimeter. I was assigned to the right side of the location, outside the house, of course.
And with respect to this search warrant, did the APEX unit work in conjunction with the SWAT unit?
Yes.
And how did they work in conjunction?
We met somewhere in Bucket. I don't remember the location, and everybody was given the assignment And prior to getting to location, everybody knew where they were gonna go once we arrived.
And where was your assignment?
I was assigned the perimeter. I was outside the location, standing on the right side of the house, where I could see the side and the back of the house.
Now, how long were you at your post or at your position before SWAT made entry?
I would say between 5, maybe 10 minutes.
I'm now going to show you what's been pre-marked. That states 68XX. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, that's a overview. Oh, okay. Yes, sorry.
Is that what is it?
It's like a overview shot of the location that we executed the warrant from.
I'm sorry.
It's a overview shot of the location where we were, where we went to.
Is that a fair and accurate? I'm sorry, Jeff.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of the location where the search warrant was executed?
Yes.
Right at this time, the state moves to admit state 68XX. Now publishing state 68XX. Maybe on the screen in front of you or behind you. Sorry, it didn't sound like. Maybe a ruler right behind you. Right behind you. And if you kind of orient the jury of your location that particular day?
Sure. I was assigned to this side of the house. I was standing somewhere over here. So I was able to see this side and also a part of this, the back side of the house. So basically I was standing right here with another officer.
Sergeant Stillwell, did you come into contact with Mr. Deamonte Kendrick?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe for the jury how you came in contact with Mr. Kendrick?
Yes. While I was standing on the side of the house and waiting for the SWAT team to make an entry, at some point I could hear some rumbling on the back side of the house, which is like leading to a mini forest, like a bushes area. You could hear someone moving. At first I didn't see him. And then me and my partner, we could see a person running from the back of the house. He was running straight, heading toward other officers that were standing directly to the back of the house, and I was coming from the side. I don't think he saw me. So I was running toward him while he was running straight to the other officers. Once he made contact with those officers, he changed his directions. Now he started running toward me. Then he saw me. He went around a abandoned house, I believe. Ran up a hill. I followed him, and we both ended in somewhere in a loading dock area where he was sitting behind a truck. That's when I first made contact with him.
Now, you said a lot, so I'm going to ask you to kindly point to the direction on the screen, 68XX.
All right, so like I said, I was standing right here, and someone was moving around this area. When I saw him, he was running straight down here. The SWAT team command post was standing right here. So I started running this way. When he got to this point and made contact with those officers, he changed his direction, started running this way when I was still coming down this way. Then he ran up somewhere over here. I followed him. So we ended up somewhere over here where the loading dock area was.
So that area is loading dock area?
Yeah, somewhere over here, there's a loading dock area underneath. There's a loading dock area. The way I remember.
In that white building, is that what is that?
Yeah, this is a parking lot, but underneath, this is a higher level, but underneath there's a loading dock area.
What about the white building to the upper right corner? Is that building?
You talking about this one? This one?
Right in front of where you were standing. Yeah, what is that building?
That's the location we were searching with the SWAT team.
Oh, you can ask. Now, I want to pick up to when you first encountered Mr. Kendrick at the loading dock area.
Yes.
Walk the jury through what happened.
He was sitting behind a truck on the stairs. I finally made contact with him, and I had my duty weapon drawn, gave him orders to either show me his hands or get to the ground. He was not complying after 2 or 3 times. When I realized that he was not armed, I holstered my duty weapon back and I approached him with my handcuffs. I believe I grabbed his right hand to put the handcuffs on, and he snatched away from me, and he took off running again. Yes.
Did you ask him for his name or his identification?
No, because at that time he was still not detained.
Did you try to detain him?
Yes, I tried just when he snatched away from me and ran again.
So once he took off running again, did you get chased?
Yes, I followed him again. Kept running for another 20 seconds.
Did you get any verbal commands for him to stop?
I don't recall. I guess we were both tired to try to run. So
So ultimately, do you apprehend this kid?
yes, he finally ended up somewhere else, and he was completely tired, and I was able to put a handcuff on him this time.
So after you apprehended him, what happened?
My partner was looking for us. He couldn't find us. So I had to wait for him to come to my location, and we were able to get him on his feet and walk him down back to the location where we were met by another officer who took custody from me and took him to the front.
Did you do anything else?
No. That was it. I went back to my original assignment and stayed there until the end of the whole process. And then after that, I just let the investigation take over.
Did you prepare any reports or something?
No, I did not. No, I don't remember that.
All right, questions for this witness?
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Weinstein. I represent Mr. Kendrick. How are you?
Good, how are you, sir?
Good. I want to make sure, can you put up that exhibit that shows the overhead? Thank you. You can charge Max for that. Would you point out again where you first saw Mr. Kendrick?
Can you turn the other way so you can kind of be facing the jury so they can make sure they hear you talking?
First time I saw him, he was somewhere.
Okay, thank you. Did you see Mr. Kendrick exit the house?
No,
Okay,
no.
okay. And you can be seated. I don't believe I have any more questions that require you to stand. And did I also hear you say that Mr. Kendrick was not armed when you apprehended
Yes.
him? Okay. Do you remember him telling you that he was scared
No.
and wanting his mom?
I remember him calling his mom.
Okay. Thank you. I have no more questions.
All right. Ms. Shard, any questions? All right, any redirect?
No, Your
Okay, thank you for your time. You may step down, call your next witness.
The state calls GBI chemist Lowry.
Okay,
She goes by Brennan now, but it's Lowry for the witness list.
Raise your right hand. You swear firm testimony given in truth, whole truth, and but the truth. Proceed. State your first and last name. What course is that?
Morgan Brennan, MorganBrennan.
Good afternoon, Ms. Brennan. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Can you tell the jury where you are employed?
The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, or the GBI.
And how long have you been employed by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation?
A little over 5 years.
What is your role or capacity there?
I'm a forensic chemist.
And can you tell the jury what you do as a forensic chemist?
I test suspected drug evidence for the presence or absence of controlled substances.
Now, how long, well, let me ask you this. Before becoming a forensic chemist, what kind of training do you need before working?
I had to complete my bachelor's degree in forensic chemistry and general chemistry, and I completed the drug identification training program at the GBI.
And where did you obtain those degrees from?
Towson University.
And once you had that specialized training, is that put on by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation?
It is.
And what does that training entail in general?
We practice with known samples and unknown samples to do our analytical and instrumentation techniques. We go through lectures, readings, and we have examinations consisting of practical, oral, and written.
And have you testified in court proceedings before on items that you've tested?
I have.
And have you been tendered as an expert before?
I have.
Approximately how many times?
About 7 times.
And what were you tendered as an expert as?
As a forensic chemist.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender as an expert, deemed an expert in forensic chemistry, Your Honor.
all right. She is so qualified and may testify as such.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you explain the general process for testing items that you receive at the GBI?
When I receive suspected drug evidence, I'll compare the evidence in front of me and the submission form submitted with it with the information that is input when the evidence is received at the lab. And then I'll do a visual examination and then continue my examination from there, depending on the type of evidence.
Now, when you receive evidence from, is it have the APD case number or other law enforcement agency along with it?
Yes, there are unique identifiers based on that agency.
And what is the unique identifying system for GBI?
When evidence is submitted to the GBI, everything is photographed and cataloged into our laboratory information management system, or LIMS. And that is when everything will get photographed and given a unique GBI case number and barcode.
Now, when you receive multiple items from one case, do you ever have to, what's your process for numbering or identifying, say, when you receive multiple items from one agency on one case?
So when items are submitted in separate packages from the agency, those are given a unique GBI case number with a -1 counting up sequentially. And then within that package, if things look visually inconsistent, we call them different populations, and I will then sequentially separate them. For example, the first bag will be item 1, and then each item, sub-item within there will become 1A, 1B, and so forth.
So if, for example, you had an assortment of unidentified pills, if you had different shapes or colors of pills, would you ever organize differently those items?
Yes, anything that is visually different. So for pills, for example, anything that's a different color, shape, or logo identification will be assigned a different unique item number.
And when you receive, say, for example, you have something that has hundreds of pills or you have multiple grams or milliliters of a substance, do you test all of the substance?
No, I test a representative sample of that population.
Now, did you ever have, or did you ever test items associated with APD case number 221291090?
Yes.
And Your Honor, I am going to approach the witness with what's been marked as 70 X-ray X-ray.
You marked the jewelry 70.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. I will mark this as 71 X-ray X-ray alpha.
All right.
Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is that?
This is my lab report for item 1 for this case.
And in general, can you describe for the jury, or is it a fair and accurate depiction of item 1 lab report you did for this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 71 X-ray X-ray alpha.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, who was this from? Atlanta Police Department?
Yes.
And who was the requesting, does it have who it was requested by, as in a detective or officer?
Yes. On the submission form, it was Officer Joseph Storno.
When were these items received by the GBI lab?
They were received July 27th, 2022.
And for this specific item, what did the GBI receive?
I received 2 containers of solid material.
I am going to approach you with what's been marked as, or already admitted as, 37 X-ray X-ray Bravo. If you could have a minute and take a look at that. Do you see any markings that you made on that item?
I do. I see my signature and the date that I sealed the evidence.
And is that a process that you do for any item that you test at the GBI?
Yes.
Now, how is there any numbering system for this item, as in like how you numbered it?
Yes. And each container, I also labeled with the unique GBI case number and item number, as well as my initials.
And what is the unique, I guess, sub number for this? Not the APD case number, not the GBI DOFIS number, but was this 3, 1, 2? What was this specific item before you?
Items 1A and 1B.
And is that what is in the packages that you have up there before you?
Yes.
And what testing did you perform on those items?
I performed electric balance, gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and thin layer chromatography.
Can you just explain what that means or what that entails?
Yes. So the balance is essentially just weighing the item. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry, or GCMS, will separate any components of a mixture and allow me to uniquely identify those separate components. And thin layer chromatography, again, can separate the components of a mixture, and I can identify if I have a standard.
And for this case, was this numbered as 1A and 1B on the 2 containers that you tested?
Yes,
And is there 2 containers inside of there before you?
there is.
How much did 1A weigh?
1A had a total net weight of 0.791 grams.
And what did 1B have?
A total net weight of 0.869 grams.
Did either of those substances test positive for any controlled substance?
They did.
What controlled substance?
Both had a conclusion of analysis confirms the presence of cocaine in the sample tested.
And what scheduled drug is cocaine?
A Schedule 2.
And when it has, do you have any measurement uncertainty percentages on your reports?
Yes, for the weights.
What does that mean?
That essentially gives a range that the acceptable value of the weight when it was obtained will fall within, because things can fluctuate depending on the environmental conditions.
And when was this report date generated?
July 29th, 2022.
Thank you. Now I'm going to approach the witness with what's been marked as 71 X-ray. Do you recognize that exhibit?
I do.
What is 71 X-ray?
This is another report of mine for item 3 for this case.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of the report you generated for item 3 in this case?
It is.
Your Honor, the state moves to tender into evidence 71 X-ray at this time.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, what date were these items received by the GBI?
July 27th, 2022.
And does this have the same agency reference number that we just discussed?
Yes.
Does it end in 1090?
Yes.
And is this also requested by Joseph Storno?
Yes.
Now, what was contained in item 3 that this report references in general?
Various tablets.
Now, as you discussed earlier, when GBI gets a multitude of tablets from a submission, is there sub-letters on this report on 71 X-ray?
Yes.
And do they go from alpha all the way, what is the last number or letter? 3 alpha through?
M.
Okay, through 3 Mike.
Mhm.
And for this specific report, what of the 3 alpha through 3 M was tested?
I tested sub-items of 3A, 1 through 4, 3B, 2 through 3, 3C, 2 through 4, 3D, 2 through 4, 3E, 1 through 3, and 3F, 1 through 3.
Now I'm going to approach you with what's already been admitted as 37 X-ray alpha. And if you could be so kind, ma'am, and open that up and open that exhibit up to get some of the other items inside. And I have gloves, or is that all right?
Yes, I have gloves. And
Yes. I'll be 1 second. Now, inside of that exhibit, is there a lot of smaller bags?
Yes.
And do these contain an assortment of variety of pills?
Yes.
For the testing that you did for item 3, when we were talking about 3 alpha through 3 M as in Mike, are those items before you pertain to what was number 3 that you tested?
Yes. Without laying them all out individually, it appears, yes, there are multiple.
Okay. And thank you. What I was going to do is, so essentially with all of those items you had, is it fair or not fair to say that you tested these individual sub bags of the assorted pills?
Yes, the ones listed previously,
Okay.
yes.
I am going to, well, for this specific, what was listed as 3 alpha, what, if any, positive test came back for that?
So only 3 alpha 1 I chemically analyzed,
What did it come back as?
and that has a report confirms the presence of carisoprodol.
What is that substance otherwise known as, or is there a common name for that?
Like benzodiazepine.
Okay. What are some other benzodiazepines examples?
There's, sorry,
No.
drawing a blank.
Is there
I'm only
any?
seeing the things in front of me.
No, that's fair. Is there any, let me ask it this way.
List of antidepressants, basically.
Okay, thank you.
General terms.
And what scheduled drug is carisoprodol?
Schedule 4.
Okay. And when other items listed, it says no chemical examinations performed as logo identification is visually consistent with a pharmaceutical preparation. What does that mean?
I only performed a logo identification, which is essentially a visual examination of the item.
Now, I'm going to approach you with what's marked as 72 X-ray. Thank you. And is that also a report you generated for this case?
Yes.
Same case number, ending
Yes.
in 1090,
Yes.
requested by Joseph Storno,
Yes.
received on July 27, 2022.
Yes.
And is this specific, well, is it a fair and accurate depiction of a report you generated for this APD case number and DOFIS case number?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state moves to tender into evidence 72 X-ray at this time.
All right, it's submitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, can you tell the jury, is this report in 72 X-ray also involving some of the pills that you have before you with
Yes.
number 3? What specifically number and letter was tested in this report?
3G.
And did it test positive for any controlled substance?
Yes.
What controlled substance?
Oxycodone.
And what scheduled drug is oxycodone?
Schedule 2.
And what was the net weight for this oxycodone that you tested for 3G?
As a net weight of total sample is 6.952 grams.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to approach you with 73 X-ray. And if you could just briefly look over that report and look up at me once you're ready. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Is it the APD case number or report you generated for the items we've been discussing?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of such report?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 73 X-ray.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Same last 4 agency number and requesting Joseph Storno,
Yes.
and received on July 27, 2022.
Yes.
Now, for 73 X-ray, is this also pertain to that assortment of pills you have before you?
Yes.
And what specifically number and letter did you test on this report?
3H1 through 3H3.
And what did those tablets come back as, if anything?
3H1 and 3H2 both confirmed the presence of amphetamine. And 3H3, I only did a logo identification.
And is amphetamine, what scheduled drug is that substance?
Schedule 2.
I'm approaching you with 74 X-ray. Do you recognize that report?
Yes.
Is it another report you generated with the same APD case number
Yes.
and same GBI identifying DOFIS case number ending in 9842?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 74 X-ray.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Was this also requested by Joseph Storno
Yes.
and received on July 27, 2022?
Yes.
And specifically, this report you have before you, did it pertain to the assortment of miscellaneous pills that you have before you?
Yes.
What number and letter did this report pertain to?
I tested 3I1 and 3I2.
And did they come back for testing positive for any substances?
Yes.
What substance?
Both confirmed the presence of MDMA.
And what was the weight for those items?
For 3I1, it was 2.698 grams, and 3I2 was 2.378 grams.
And for each of these reports that pertain to the large bag of pills, does your report list sometimes either colors or imprints on the pills or tablets?
Yes.
Is that a way to identify them?
Yes.
And what was the color or imprint for the items you just discussed?
3I1 were green tablets with an imprint of G6, and 3I2 were red tablets with an imprint of 36 and 300, or G6, sorry, and 300.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I wanted to approach you with what's been marked as 75 X-ray. And let me know if you recognize that report.
Yes.
Is this also a report you generated from testing items received for this same APD case number?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of one of the reports you generated for this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 75 X-ray.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, ma'am, does this 75 X-ray, what number and letter does it pertain to?
3J1 and 3J2.
And what was the either color or imprint on 3J1 and 3J2?
3J1 were teal tablets, and 3J2 were blue tablets with G6 and 300.
Now, were those items, did they test positive for the presence of any illegal narcotics?
Yes.
What substance?
Both confirmed the presence of MDMA.
And what was the net weight of those items?
3J1 was a total net weight of 2.478 grams, and 3J2 was a total weight of 2.351 grams.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to also now approach you with 76 X-ray. If you could take a look at that, please. Is this also a report you generated for APD case number ending in 1090?
Yes.
And same GBI DOFIS case number?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of a report you generated for these items?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 76 X-ray.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, ma'am, what item and number does this report in 76 X-ray pertain to?
3K.
And what was the color or imprint on 3K?
They were tablets in the shape of a money bag.
And did it test positive for any substance?
Yes.
What substance?
Confirmed the presence of MDMA.
And what was the net weight of that substance?
Less than 1 gram.
I'm approaching you with what's been marked as 77 X-ray. Let me know if you recognize that, ma'am.
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of one of the reports you generated for this case number?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 77 X-ray.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Was this also from Joseph Storno and received on July 27, 2022?
Yes.
And one quick note, when it says, after it says it was received by the lab, can you explain to the jury what it indicates with the sealed packages underneath?
Yes. The package was not properly initialed by the receiving agency, so that was corrected by the evidence receiving technicians at the GBI.
And was there a date of resubmission?
Yes, August 31st, 2022.
And has that, does what we just described pertain to a number of the items or the items from this bag of assorted pills?
It would mean the entire bag, so that outer package was resubmitted.
Okay, thank you. Now, for this item, what was the number and letter associated with this report in 77 X-ray?
3L1 through 3L4.
And what was the color or imprint on those items?
3L1 was one pink tablet with G6 300. 3L2 were tablets with an imprint of OP35. 3L03 were tablets with O111. And 3L4 were tablets with the imprint 2410V.
And did these test positive for any controlled substance?
3L01 I chemically analyzed, and yes, it did.
What substance?
MDMA.
And what was the net weight of that item?
Less than 1 gram.
I'm approaching you with what's been marked as 78 X-ray. If you could take a moment and review that, please. Do you recognize this report?
Yes.
And is it pertain to the same APD case number we've been discussing ending in 1090?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of the report you generated for some of the items you tested in this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 78 X-ray.
Admitted.
And is this also from Joseph Storno and received on July 27, 2022?
Yes.
And does it have the same notation about the initials being resubmitted on August 31st, 2022?
Yes.
What number and letter does this report pertain to?
3M1 through 3M4.
And what is the either imprint or color of those items?
3M1 were tablets with the markings of 10/325M523. 3M2 were tablets with imprint T194. 3M3 were tablets with markings 931174. And 3M4 were tablets with the markings IBU 600.
And did any of those items test positive for any substances?
3M1 and 3M2 were chemically analyzed, and yes.
What substance?
Oxycodone.
And what was the net weight of those items?
3M1 total net weight was 5.846 grams, and 3M2 was 6.179 grams.
Bless you. I'm approaching you with what's been marked as 79 X-ray X-ray. If you could take a moment to review that. Do you recognize this report?
Yes.
And does it also pertain to the APD case number ending in 1090?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of one of the reports you generated for this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 79 X-ray X-ray.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. What number and letter does this pertain to?
3M5.
And what is the either imprint or identifying marker of 3M5?
Tablets with an imprint of 512.
Did this test positive for any substance?
Yes.
What substance?
Oxycodone.
And what was the net weight of this item?
Total net weight of 4.768 grams.
Thank you. I'm approaching the witness with what's been marked as 80 X-ray X-ray. If you could take a moment and please review that, ma'am. Do you recognize this report?
Yes.
And does this also pertain to the APD case number ending in 1090
Yes.
that we've been discussing?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of one of the reports you generated for that case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 80 X-ray X-ray.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. What number and letter does this report pertain to?
3M6 and 3M7.
And were those items did they ever test positive for any controlled substance?
Yes.
What substance?
Oxycodone.
And what was the identifying markers of those items?
3M6 were tablets with marking K56, and 3M7 were tablets with marking RP10325.
And what was the net weight of those two items?
3M6 was a total net weight of 2.068 grams, and 3M7 was a total net weight of less than 1 gram.
And these were also received initially on July 27, 2022, requested by Joseph Sorno.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm approaching the witness with what's been marked as 81 X-ray X-ray. Thank you. If you could take a moment to look over that, please. Is this also a report you generated for the APD case number ending in 1090?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of one of the reports you generated for this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 81 X-ray X-ray.
Admitted.
And does this also pertain to the assortment of pills bags that you opened up earlier?
Yes.
What number and letter does this report pertain to?
3M8 through 3M11.
And is there any identifying markers on those items?
3M8 were tablets with a marking E50520. 3M9 were tablets with marking B97320. 3M10 were capsules with marking 30 mg ELI-515. And 3M11 were black tablets.
And did any of those items test positive for any controlled substance?
3M8 through 3M10 did.
And what was that controlled substance?
Amphetamine.
And what was the net weight of those items that tested positive for amphetamine?
3M8 was a total weight of 3.715 grams. 3M9 was a total weight of less than 1 gram. 3M10 was a total weight of 2.146 grams.
I am approaching the witness with what's marked as 82 X-ray X-ray. If you could have a moment and look at that. And Your Honor, before I'm going to approach with 82 X-ray through 85 X-ray. And if you could, we'll go by one, but those are the last reports we'll be covering. If you could do me a favor and just look over those and look up at me when you're ready. Do all 5 of these reports pertain to the APD case number ending in 1090?
Yes.
Same DOFIS case number we've been discussing?
Yes.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of some of the reports you generated from testing the items received for that case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 82 X-ray through 85 X-ray.
You're admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now for 82 X-ray and 83 X-ray. Can you look at those together? Are both of these from Joseph Storno and received on July 27, 2022?
Yes.
What is 82 X-ray?
I tested 1 container with liquid.
And what did that container, if anything, come back with?
Analysis confirmed the presence of codeine and promethazine.
And for 83 X-ray, how many, what did you receive for that report? What does it state that the items were contained in?
1 bucket with liquid.
And what did that liquid, if anything, come back and returned as?
Analysis confirmed the presence of codeine and promethazine.
Do you also, hold on one second. I wanted to show you what's already been admitted as 40 X-ray Bravo. Do you see any Georgia Bureau of Investigation markings on that item?
I do.
Do you see any notations that you made?
Yes.
Is this one of the items you tested that you just discussed for, that tested positive for promethazine?
Yes.
And I also want to show you what's already been admitted. As long as this box doesn't break on me, that's 40 X-ray alpha. If you could just do me a favor and look at these markings on this box. Do you recognize some of the markings on this?
The APD case number, yes.
And do you see, I'll come grab this in just a second. Do you see any Georgia Bureau of Investigation markings on that?
Not on the outside of the package.
And when you have a large amount of items that we discussed earlier, is it normal for the the GBI to test some of the items received?
Yes.
Now, I am handing you what's been marked as 18 X-ray alpha. If you could take a brief moment. Do you have a report that we just admitted that's 84 X-ray?
Yes.
What was received with that report?
A total of 6 bags of leafy material.
And what was that leafy material? Did it test positive for any substance?
Yes, the presence of genus cannabis.
And what was the weight of that substance?
A total weight of 449.17 grams.
And did it have what's commonly referred to as THC in that substance?
Yes.
would that be classified as marijuana?
Yes.
And did I ask you what was the weight of that substance?
Yes.
Okay. And is that item before you, do you see any markings that you made on the bag before you?
Yes.
And does that pertain to this report that's marked as 84 X-ray X-ray?
Yes.
One brief moment, Your Honor. One more item, ma'am. I'm approaching with 40 X-ray X-ray Charlie. Do you recognize any markings that you made on that item?
Yes.
And is that the markings you always make when you test the substances?
Yes, my initials and seal, initials and date on the seal.
And are you able to tell just from the outside of that item and your markings what that item returned as?
Confirm the presence of codeine and promethazine.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Your Honor, the state doesn't have any more questions for this witness at this time.
All right, are there defense questions for this witness? All right, thank you for your time, and you are excused, and I think that'll probably bring us to the end of today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just have y'all back here at our usual time of 9 for you. And just a reminder, don't look at any kind of internet, blog, post, social media, newscast, anything, any kind of source of information about this case or anybody involved in it. Don't talk about the case. Don't let anybody talk to you about the case. And we'll see you in the morning. Thank you. Anything we need to put on the record before we break for the evening? Okay, so we mentioned off the record, Ms. Taylor, who's our court reporter for today, was also our court reporter the day after Detective Dennis's testimony, and it may be that the bench conference that we are all remembering was that morning. So Ms. Taylor's going to search and come up with a rough of that bench conference and provide it to us in the morning. And we're going to look in more detail on Friday during our non-jury day at exactly what we have left in terms of witnesses and evidence. But it is anticipated that we might need proposed jury instructions well before we had, or I had originally asked for y'all to provide those. So be thinking about that. What else? Yeah.
So my understanding is that the state is just going to continue to go down the list provided. Is that accurate?
No, Your Honor, it appears we've been trying to
confirm our witnesses for tomorrow.
Okay.
There's been a lot of scheduling conflicts, so we need to regroup as a team to figure out everyone's coming tomorrow. We will do that as soon as we leave here, as soon as that is.
Is it going to be, is whomever's going to be testifying tomorrow, at least somewhere on this week's witness list? Okay, that should be fine.
And so my understanding, I'm reading, I guess how I want to read the court's comments. My understanding is we are looking for instructions on what was stated regarding the Detective Dennis and Detective Thorpe possibly coming in as it relates to Mr. Kendrick's statement. But when we're looking for those that bench conference,
Yeah.
that I'm confused.
So my recollection is, as I mentioned this morning, is that when Dennis's testimony was excluded as a sanction, somebody from the state asked, well, if somebody else could cover the same testimony, are we totally excluded from even touching on the topics, or is it just Dennis who's excluded? And my ruling was, no, if you already have somebody on the witness list and they can cover the same topic, then fine, you can ask through them.
Right. And my understanding is that would apply to Mr. Kendrick's statement, who they were originally potentially seeking Investigator Dennis to testify about. That does not apply to Mr. Stillwell's statement, which I objected to this morning, that they chose not to ask.
Yeah,
him.
I haven't seen anything in their order of proof and exhibits witness list that suggests that they were going to ask Detective Dennis anything about Mr. Stillwell's statement. And they had already covered, it seemed, everything that they were going to get into about when Mr. Stillwell was the intended victim and Ms. Jones was killed, without any indication that that was anything. I mean, that would have been the time to get into that. And there weren't other witnesses listed that they haven't already gotten to yet. So my ruling on that is they don't get
Okay. I just
to
wanted to make
just circle back, just because it may be now that Detective Thorpe is coming in because the state figured out it was him and not some other witness who needs to testify to.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think you're thinking of Detective Griffin. Detective Griffin is the person who he was present for when Mr. Jackson was.
Right. And Detective Thorpe wasn't listed as somebody who was going to testify then.
We hadn't gotten in the sequence of events. We hadn't gotten to it. His interview was months.
You hadn't gotten to the Jones killing?
We got to the Jones killing. It's not related to the Jones killing.
I know.
Well, Detective
Well,
Thorpe also.
it was an interview that was taken of Mr. Stillwell at the time he was talking to them about having been a witness / victim of that killing, right?
Right. And I'm bearing the lead, I think, a little bit. Detective Thorpe also testified as the lead investigator for the Donovan Thomas case.
Right. And he'd
So-
already testified.
Right.
about it.
He already testified. They never asked about it.
Right.
And that's kind of my stance.
Mhm.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood the question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right. I think we'll see each other at 8:45 in the morning. Sound? Okay. I was going to say sound good, but y'all would just say, no, that doesn't sound good. So not going to ask that. All right. See y'all in the morning.
I believe previously I had raised an issue with the court regarding the sheriff's department waking up my client very, very early.
Mhm.
And you had assisted us by asking the sheriff's department to wake them up later, maybe closer to 7. Is that right? And they'd been accommodating that, but apparently that changed for some reason this week. And they're back to waking
This
them up
week is in today.
today, correct? Waking them up pre-dawn. So I don't know if you would be so kind as to say something to them again. if
Okay, I mean,
possible.
I don't know, I know that the sheriff's office works hard and is perpetually short-staffed these days and has lots of people to get different places on Mondays especially. But, I mean, if we're gonna, they're both at Rice Street, right? They're not some
That's correct, Your Honor.
satellite facility. Okay, I mean, to the extent possible, just wake them up in time to get what needs to get done and transport them over here in time to be here and ready for court at 8:45. If that has to be 5 in the morning, then it has to be. But if there's no reason for it to be, then try to let them get some sleep.
Thank
That's
you,
all
Your
I'm
Honor.
going to say about that.
That's
Okay.
fine. Thank you,
All
Your Honor. I
right.
appreciate it.
No problem.